you've already heard the introduction, but I'll go through it again. Welcome to this meetup. This is the first meetup that we've done away from the Saturday, the second Saturday that we usually do to fly drones out of the 360 bridge. Has everybody flown out there? No's? Is there any no's here? You know, you're working on it down there. John, have you flown out there? Just on my own. Oh, you have? Okay. Anyway, so the next one that we want to do is probably do the workflow of somebody doing, planning a mission, and then going out, photographing it or videotaping it, and then after that to run it through their software on their computer. There's a guy that I have in mind for that is quite talented. Actually, this was an idea from this gentleman by the name of Lenny, who is also, he's one of the main guys of why I got into flying drones. But we'll program that later on. In the meantime, we have Jim and Eric, and then I have Abel right here. He is a co-organizer with me. Lenny is also part of the Meetup Drone, and then James over here too. So welcome, and without further ado, I pass it over to Jim.
Great, thank you. So we do have a live stream going here, so I'm going to roll the video one more time for the people that tuned in a little bit late, and then we'll get right into it.
3, 2, 1, starting mission.
Dronelink is a modern approach to flight automation focused on reusability, collaboration, scalability, and a network of drone professionals that are looking to use collaboration to enhance their craft. At its core, collaboration is all about human beings working together and sharing ideas. You get exposed to an alternate way of how somebody thinks about something. The core feature in Dronelink is components. The component is the definition of how is the drone producing the thing that is actually valuable. What I saw happening over and over again was people spending all their time and energy replanning missions just because they're changing location or they're changing drones or they're changing pilots, and there was no ability to reuse any of that work. Going out and being able to press one button and seeing it take off fully autonomously and do exactly what you wanted it to do every single time. The mindset up until this point has been, how do we fly the drone from point A to point B? And the shift needs to be, how do we get the data from the drone that we need to solve the problem that we're trying to solve? When you get bogged down with thinking about how you're flying and how you're rotating, it separates you as an artist from being able to really express that. You go out, you put the drone down, you load up your mission plan, and you hit play.
Dronelink has a custom flight controller which offers multi-purpose mission types. They can do a 360, a waypoint mission, and then do an orbit, all in the exact same mission. All these ideas can be put into components, put in the library, and you can pull them and drop them directly into the mission. We can just pull this particular component and put it into the flight plan. We don't have to replan every time.
To have one-stop shop with an app to be able to pick up and take pictures of the building envelope, to map a job site.
It's easily repeatable on a different site.
Human error is always going to be difficult. If you have a drone operator trying to flip between apps and there's an incident, that's a problem for me as a drone service provider.
Dronelink gives us the ability to repeat the same operation week to week so we can get the client consistent data. We just go out and push the button and go.
I can use the same process with the orbits, with the pictures, with the maps, the envelope scans for any project around the country.
I think the real future here is actually running the flight control in the cloud. The drone is out there flying, producing its telemetry, but we're actually sending that telemetry in real time to a data center. It could be halfway across the world, processing it and coming up with the commands that need to be sent back to the drone to perform the flight control, and doing it with a latency that still allows you to produce the types of shots that Dronelink can currently do when you're standing within a couple hundred feet. Your mind has to be open enough to think about it in a different way, to challenge the status quo, and once you get past that, it's worth it.
Our goal is to listen to our users and listen to the people that are pushing us to develop the best solution that's out there, not just for today, but going forward.
There's that spark inside of us, that divine spark. It's our creativity. It's our ability to imagine things that don't exist yet. and make them a reality. Dronelink's no different. You want to do that with your drone. You want to do that with everything in your life.
Thank you. Gotta get my screen recording going here. I feel like we're getting this recorded from 500 angles. Okay, great. My name is Jim McAndrew, and I'm the CEO of Dronelink. This is Eric Goldstein. He's our product marketing manager, and we are super excited to tell you what we've been working on. And we'll get right into the demo. But I felt like this group deserved a little bit of a background. There's some history here. So I put together. I just have three slides in my deck. That's it, and we're gonna go straight into the product demo. So most of you, that are sitting in this room, probably not the ones on the live stream. Most of you that are sitting in this room maybe know Autopilot. It was out of a company that I had founded in 2014 called Auto Flight Logic, and it started out with just me in my garage, kind of hacking away at the DJI SDK in the very, very early days. I had longer hair back then, and yeah, my wife took that picture. She's sitting in the seats right there. I wasn't too happy in that one. That was the I'm in the middle of the figuring out all the DJI SDK bugs iteration cycle, sitting at the kitchen table, going out to my driveway, flying, making the neighbors mad, coming back in, changing the Boolean from true to false, even though the documentation said it should have been something else, and it was halfway in Chinese. But yeah, and then that's Jackson down there. So Jackson, I think, started the Austin Drone Meetup. He was the first, I think, organizer. No?
I can't recall. He got it handed to him from.
Okay. There's been a long series of baton passing, but when I got into it, and so when I called him in early 2015, that's how things actually took off. So the guys down there in the bottom left, that's Eric Chang. At the time he was working for DJI and their SDK team. So that was Jackson. I had met up with Jackson. He was like, "Hey, I'll go talk to these guys at South by Southwest for you." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, Jackson. Okay, whatever." And then he did, and he got me a meeting with them 2 days later. I flew out there, gave them a demo of super early version of Autopilot, which was more closer to that thing on the left, which is it's super embarrassing to even put that screenshot in there. You could tell where my heart was. It was like the live video feed was sort of like buried down in the bottom left corner. Like, why would anybody need to see a live video feed? Like, it's all about like what is the Autopilot doing? I'm showing like the actual commands that it's sending and stuff. Obviously, Autopilot grew up and became something even way beyond what I had originally imagined. Sort of follow mode, selfie drone, kind of action sports enthusiast kind of thing. Autopilot sort of turned into this waypoint management ground station system that I had never really intended it for it to be, but it started getting on people's radars, and people started using it for things that were more for commercial and industrial use cases. And so at the end of 2015, I kind of met up with some local entrepreneurs here in town, and that's the two other co-founders of Hangar. So this was the 2016 to 2018 era. It's Colin.
So far ago.
Yeah.
So long ago.
Yeah, exactly. So that was Colin and Jeff. We had this crazy idea. Why don't we take this little app that I wrote and wrap it up into a bigger company, which is down there in the bottom, that was called Hangar. And essentially we were going to do Uber for drones, and that was the dream. Hangar is still going strong, and I wish them all the best. But times change, things move on, and that's where. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I have one other picture in here. There was the MVP on Hangar. That was actually an early screenshot of Hangar 360, and then of course now that's what Hangar looked like. We were doing a mapping mission over the Giant Stadium down there in San Francisco. I think that was totally clear airspace, right? Yeah, I think Chris had me check that out. So obviously, things progressed pretty far, but now it's in the Dronelink era. So there's my wonderful family up in the top right corner. I've got them all swagged out and t-shirts. So I have 3 kids, 7, 5, and 2. 2-year-old is definitely a firecracker. And that's my mom and dad. My dad, he's kind of been a major part of all of this, really even since before autopilot, but he was my idol growing up. He was a 747 captain. It's what got me into my interest in aviation, and which led to drones. And so he's kind of half the reason we're all sitting here. And then, there's Carlos down there. That was a couple months ago. I was trying to dig up a picture from when I was doing the presentation, I think 2 years ago at the Austin Drone Meetup, but for some reason he had lost the picture. I don't know why. Carlos didn't want to have that. So now he's like, oh, there he is. Did you ever find the picture, Carlos? Or are you just holding out on me?
On what?
Of the last time I presented here at Austin Drone Meetup.
I did find some, but it seemed like you had it under control.
Okay, sure, yeah, whatever. Okay, and so then there's Jackson again. So that video that you just saw, it was literally, we just, it's hot off the presses. We had that's actually not the complete version. We just went and reviewed, that was the rough draft. So super big thanks to Kind Motion Pictures, they're awesome. If my rough drafts could look like that, my final drafts could look like that, and that'd be great. So, but that was from the shooting days, pretty fun. So, this is the MVP of Dronelink. Obviously I don't have a current picture because it's just getting launched. The plan is to release it sometime in the next couple of days. So we'll see what happens, see when we can get the final cut of the video done. But I am now going to drop right in and give you guys a demo. Hopefully everybody had a chance to maybe register an account ahead of time. If you didn't, you can still do it. If you just go to dronelink.com, you can do it on your iPad, your iPhone, have a computer. All you do is just click this Get Started button right here, and then that will take you to the beta sign-up page. The beta is open and free, and this is what you see. So the idea behind Dronelink was there's a lot of people out there that are interested in using it sort of for their own purposes on an individual level, and that's what these plans over here are for. The Explore plan is mostly just to allow you to get in and kind of see content that other people have created and get a feel for what the mission planner looks like. And then when you're ready to start flying missions, that's when you upgrade to Pro. And then the team plans are more focused on either teams that are 2 to 10 people large, which would get you everything that's over in Pro, but you have a bunch of collaboration features that I'm going to show you just in a second. And then Enterprise is, if you like what you see on the Dronelink native app and dronelink.com, you can actually take a lot of the same tech that those apps are built on top of. What is this? This is like Meta, like a video of my desktop. Did it like stop screen recording in the middle of that? Uh-oh. Let's try that again. Okay. So I don't want to bore everybody with this graphic for too long, but there's a lot of tech that we've been working on over the last 8-9 months, and my goal for most of it is to make it open source. There is some of it, of course, that is proprietary, at least right now. I hope over time to make more and more of it open source. It's kind of the ethos behind Dronelink. If you're looking at kind of the 3 main sections in this diagram, there are mission runtimes, and the way to think about that is a way to get Dronelink missions running on a specific platform with a specific drone. So I've created ones for DJI and iOS and Android, which means the native app works on both iOS and Android, or the Crystal Sky monitors and the DJI monitors. And then there's the user interface side, which is what you see at dronelink.com, which is what I'm going to walk you through the rest of this demo. And then there's the mission kernel, which you're not going to see. That's kind of the guts of the flight controller. And that's where, in the video, when you hear me talking about running this on the cloud or in a server somewhere, in order to support this running on all the different platforms on the client side, it actually is done in a language and with an architecture that could easily be ported to running on the server. So this is looking forward to 5G connected drones and boxes and stuff like that. So getting back to the website, once you choose the type of account you want to have, you can sign up and you'll land on a page that looks similar to this. One thing to note is each user profile can be associated with multiple accounts. So the idea here is you might have your personal account that you do your side hustle stuff with, and then maybe you're a contractor for a couple different drone service providers or whatever, and so you might have various team level accounts that you're a member of, and so depending on what you're doing, you can kind of go into your profile and select which account you're viewing the world as. And so in this case, I'm going to select the Dronelink account, and so now what we're looking at is sort of a members level view of what Dronelink looks like for a team account. And the first thing you'll notice over here on the left is a repositories tab, and this language comes straight from GitHub. So the idea here is that mission plans, you can really think of them as code for drones. And so if you take a lot of the principles of open source software development and the principles that are behind platforms like GitHub and apply them to drones and mission planning repositories. And at a super high level, you can think of them as just a folder that you can put mission plans in with a few key distinctions. So like in this case, if you click new repository, the first question you have to really ask yourself here is, do I want to make this repository public or private? And what we're trying to do at Dronelink and leading by example is you can see a lot of our repositories are actually public already. This examples repository here is core repository, and I'll kind of dig into some details of what's inside those public repositories in just a minute. But I want to create a new repository just for this demonstration right here called demo. And because I'm going to select public, as soon as I create it, if you are following along with your Dronelink account on your device, as soon as I put a mission plan in here, you're going to be able to see it. So let's do that real quick. I'll click new plan. It's asking me to select the takeoff location. So here we are right here in this building. If we walk out here, maybe we'll take off this crushed granite. Okay. And then it walks you through a wizard asking you a few of the most basic questions about this mission for safety purposes. Do you want to restrict the takeoff to a specific area? So this is super important from an altitude standpoint, especially if you're in a place where the altitude is changing a lot. And then what do you want it to do when the mission finishes? And then you can have a default speed for that mission. There's a bunch of other settings if you click this advanced button, but we're not going to go through that here. And then it's asking you, what's the primary thing you want to do in this mission plan? And so it gives you a list of potential components. You can fly to a destination, you can do an orbit, you can fly along a path, which is similar to waypoint mode in other systems. You can do a mapping mission, or you can actually include from a repository. So just to start off super simple here, if I just click, for example, path, and I select the location for the path, let's say the path is going to start right here. I'm going to fly at 200 feet, we've seen out there in other places. But at this point, I'm not doing anything with the drone. It's just flying along this path, but I'm not shooting a video or anything. And so what we need to get in here is some commands to actually set the camera up, start capturing, all that kind of stuff. And so option number one is I can come in here and I can start putting down markers. This is a nomenclature in the path component. So if I put a marker down the path right here and say, I want to do a component, there's a bunch of things that you can do with the camera. Like every possible setting that you can program on the camera is available here. And so drilling down in this manner it's okay in terms of like allowing you to discover what is available. But I find it a lot of times more useful to just start typing and it filters it down. There it is, camera start capture. That's an issue detector. It says, oh, hey, by the way, you told the camera to start capturing before you set the camera's mode. And you called camera start capture before you called stop capture. And so part of the issue here is that Dronelink makes no assumptions about the state that your drone is in before you start flying this mission. So if you're already recording video and you want to be shooting interval photos, if you ask, like if all you did was came in here and said camera start capture while it's already recording video, it's a no-op. It's not going to do anything. In fact, it's not going to do what you want even. So what you actually need to do is defensively say something more like, hey, I need to stop the capture first, and then I need to do another command. I need to set the mode of the camera into interval photos, and then I need to call start capture. You can see the issue detection went away. Well, how do I get another command in here? So this is another type of component. You saw this component that I added down here was a path. There's other types of components that don't have anything to do with flying your drone. In this case, like it would be a list. So you can come back in here, do another marker, and then when you select component here, select the list, and then if you navigate into this list, then you can add a whole list of commands in there. That's not exactly what we wanted though, because we actually wanted it to happen at that other marker. So as a convenience, I'm just going to go back to this marker, come in here and click embed in list. Now I can come into that list, or let's see, yeah, photo, and then I need to say photo mode, photo type, we'll do interval photo, and then I can come in here and say start capture. So there's the 4 commands that you actually need to issue to the drone to safely get this into intervalometer mode. And you can see the issues aren't detected there anymore whenever you click that. So that's fine if you want to do interval photos. And you know, it took a while, right? So part of the power here is that you shouldn't have to redo that every single time. And in fact, what's really even better is maybe somebody else has actually already solved this problem. Maybe even Dronelink has solved the problem for you. So instead of grinding against this, you know, editor, filling all this stuff in for yourself, what you can do before you get into your mission plan is you can come here and explore public repositories. And now we're back at that list of here's all of Dronelink's public repositories that we're continually adding new content to over time. And here's repositories from users from around the world that have the most stars. So if you go look at our repositories, for example, our core repository, we've got a bunch of interesting components in here like cinematic camera settings. If you go look at what that component does, it's got 11 components in here. It's stopping capture for you, it's setting the camera mode into video, it's setting it to H.265, it's setting the resolution for you, it's setting in a D-log. So this is pretty complicated, right? So I actually just would rather use this component instead of having to reinvent the wheel every single time. If I go back to that mission plan that I was working on, instead, select component, and then this time do include from repository. Now it's going to search all the repositories that I starred, and I'm also a member of Dronelink, so of course it shows those ones up for me. And there it is. There's the cinematic camera settings. I could have started typing and it would search for it. And it's in the Dronelink account, the core repository, and this is the name of it. So if I drop that guy in, there it is. You get all that hard. I don't prefer to shoot in H.265. I actually prefer to shoot in H.264. So maybe I need to tweak this. Well, that's fine, but now what's happening is I'm tweaking the copy of the component that I have in my mission plan. Dronelink still has their copy that's H.265. So now I know this is like my own personal version of cinematic camera settings. So what I can do is I can actually take this whole component right here and hit add to repository. And I'm going to put it in the demo repository here. And it said, okay, great, added the cinematic camera settings to Dronelink demo. Okay, and I can go view that component separately. And if I back out of here, you'll notice now that the demo repo has not only plans in it, but it also has this tab, shows components. So repositories can contain both. There's different strategies to, should I create a repository that just has components versus just has mission plans versus a repository that's more focused on geographies. And there's a bunch of different ways and considerations that I don't want to get into right now of designing your repos and how to group things. For now, I think the interesting point here is what if I come back, you know, several months later and decide, you know what, it turns out actually I do like to shoot in H.265, but I don't like my video file format to be MOV, I want it to be MP4. Okay, great. So now I updated that component. But there's a that component lives inside of that plan, or even lots of plans that I may have had. And so the question is, how do those changes propagate? Like, do I have to go manually do all of that? And so if you open up the original plan, you see the little bubble pop up. Oh, hey, by the way, there's an update available for one included component. You can just view it and see, oh, yep, there it is. This is where the component lives inside of my mission plan. This is the component that it's referencing. It allows you to click through to it to inspect it and see what changed. And you can just hit back, open that thing up, and hit accept right here, just to show you what happens. If I go inside of this marker, there it is. So it's H.264 and MOV. And if I come in here and I just accept these changes, boom, update's accepted. And if I come in and look at it now, there it is, H.265 and MP4 are selected. So it automatically keeps it all in sync for me. I don't have to worry about it. And then one thing that I clicked through really quickly there that you didn't see was actually that version prompt. So it said, oh, by the way, I'm about to modify this mission plan by accepting these changes from the component that you updated. I'm going to go ahead and just create a new version of the mission plan for you, just in case you actually don't want these changes. Then you can just roll them back. So if I just delete this version, boom, it goes back to that first version. And if I navigate down in there, there it is. It's back to H.264 and MOV, if that's what you want. So you can do that. So I think that's kind of the high level of using the wizard, getting in here, doing components. I think one of the things that really sets Dronelink apart beyond the component-based framework is this whole concept of visual flight planning and also debugging your missions using the mission previewer. So part of my pain point in looking at a 2D mission plan like this is I have no idea really what I'm going to get, right? And so one option to do the visual flight planning is you can turn on a simulated drone. I just right-clicked, and now it plops a drone down here that I can drag around, and I can just change the field of view in real time here. And if I drag this around, it updates the 2D view, right? And so you can do that until you get the exact shot that you want. Maybe I want to come over here, reposition the drone, point it towards downtown, and then I can click on the little dot, dot, dot in a 3D view over here and select my drone. Maybe I'm going to be flying this with a Mavic 2 Pro, and then it actually shows me the real field of view that drone is going to be seeing. You can uncheck that if you want to. You don't have to do the actual field of view, but in this case, it makes a lot of sense. And so then once I have that set up, then I can just click this little plus button and say, all right, put me a new waypoint and marker right here. And if you look at what it did, not only did it put the waypoint there, but if you click on the marker, you'll see the altitude was at the same altitude that the simulated drone was at. The heading was the exact same heading. The gimbal was at the same gimbal pitch. And so I am surely going to get this frame if I run the mission. But the one last sort of really make sure is run this mission preview right here. And this is the huge payoff. If you remember back to the original chart that I was showing at the beginning, the same code that runs on Android and iOS and that enables that also enables the flight control code to be running in the browser. And so when I click this button, it is actually simulating a drone, the physics of the drone, in the browser's memory, and running the same exact flight controller code that's going to run whenever we go out there and fly in about 30 minutes. So if I do this, of course it speeds it up, because why do you want to wait? It doesn't have to run in real time. And then now it plops you into a mission preview. And you get that familiar view of the 3D view up here. It actually shows you the flight path and whether or not it's going to be running into any terrain. Austin's pretty flat, but I'll show you an example here where you can see terrain involved. And then you get a timeline at the bottom, and it's showing you the components that are executing, how long they're taking, the commands that are happening on the camera, how many batteries it's going to be. In this case, everything looks pretty good, except there's one kind of huge missing thing that I can instantly see from this timeline. I'm not recording anything on the video, right? So boom, immediately I'm debugging this mission. I go back, I'm going to put another marker down here and say, let's execute a component, and we'll do a start capture, run the mission preview again. Should be in there. Really? Is there something else wrong that I forgot to do? Let's go over one of our examples to make sure I didn't regress something. So here's the example with the terrain. So this was the Haystack Rock video that was from the launch video. I may have regressed it. It's not showing the camera captures on the timeline. It's definitely on my dev machine.
We're in beta still.
All right, so anyways, so here's the Haystack Rock mission. And you can scrub this timeline to get an idea, especially for hyperlapses. This is great because obviously you're going to be playing it back at 20x or 30x speed, so you can get a pretty good feel for what that's going to look like really sped up. And if you want to, you can just play that thing out. I'm flying at 10 miles an hour, so it was a pretty big mission. You can do 4x on it if you want to, and you can expand that out as well. So there's the flight path over the monolith. It's clearing it by about 200 feet, so we know we're safe. And this is the actual field of view, so we know we're getting the exact framing that we wanted. If I came here right to there, went back over to launch video. There it was, same exact frame. So what was great about that was I planned this, we were going to be there for one night. You get 10 minutes at magic hour to film this sunset, right? I only had one shot. So I planned the whole thing from the house here before we went out there last week. And I was 100% confident that I knew I was going to get the shot the very first time because I had it all done ahead of time. So yeah, that's the mission previewer. Let's check time here. Does anybody have the demo mission plan open on their devices? Yeah, you got it open? Cool. So if I come in here, this hits on the collaboration piece. If I open this thing up, as I start warping this path, you guys seeing a change in real time on your screens? Yeah. So that's kind of the first big piece of collaboration here, especially if you're in a team account. Is all the team members that open up the mission plan will see that happening in real time on their devices, assuming that they have a network connection. If you're not on the same team and you're using an individual account, you can come in here and click share, and then you can create share links that either a contributor, which will get that real-time updating, or you can create viewer links, for example. If I do a viewer link, open that thing up, should show, it may have to be a different user that accesses it. It'll actually start showing you a list of everybody that's accessed that link and who they are with their email addresses, so you know if that link's getting out of control, you can create new links and stuff like that. But then what you can do is there's actually an option to fork that mission plan. So this comes from GitHub as well. So this is a case where somebody has shared a mission with you, they haven't given you right privileges to the mission. They don't trust you enough yet to edit it in real time, but maybe you have good ideas for it, and so if you actually fork that thing, create a copy of it, so this is the second version of it, and then I make a change to that mission. Maybe I decide that this isn't a safe flight path. Maybe I need to move it over here a little bit. Then there's a new button up here called Fork Plan Options. You can actually submit a pull request if the creator of the repository turns it on. There's a setting in here, you can allow public pull requests. It's off by default just so people don't spam you out. But if you turn that on and then go back, now you get the submit pull request option. And then if I go back to the original copy of that plan, now I'm the original author. Now I get a notification here, hey, there's one available pull request. You can click through and see the plan to decide whether or not you like those changes. And then similarly to when a component is updated, if you decide to accept their changes, it'll say, hey, by the way, we're going to put them in a new version in case you want to roll back. So as soon as I hit accept, boom, there's the change. I end up not liking it. I can go back to the versions tab, delete that version, and back to where I was. So, depending on whether or not you're a team or you're an individual, what the trust level is, there's a bunch of different options for collaboration. Some of them are real time, some of them are asynchronous. It really just depends on your workflow. So I think that covers it. Did you want to cover anything else?
Yeah,
I want to talk into this.
Yeah, we're going to do questions in just a second. I just want to make sure in terms of the prepared.
Yeah, I'm going to address a question that I saw come through on the stream too. So I'm Eric Goldstein, by the way. So one of the things I've been working on a lot has been the videos that are going on, the how-to videos. I had some questions about, are the new videos coming out? There are. We were, at the end of this week at launch, we'll have a whole new set of basic videos and more advanced videos to follow. There were some questions about the best way to kind of learn kind of the basics. I mean, Jim's showing some relatively advanced missions, so basically a very, very simple mission of taking them through how do I create a path, how do I make it flow, how do I look at things. There are some Dronelink 101 videos that I'd recommend you watch that take you through how to create a path, how to do an orbit, how to do some very basic things. And there was another question that I think just builds on some of the things that Jim said about the collaboration. I think it just goes to the way that I'm really excited to see Dronelink work and add some of the collaboration between some of our beta members and some of the ambassadors that we have already using it. We had within Dronelink a way to do a rising orbit, kind of a helix, where you could kind of go up. But the issue, the limitation with the software was that the drone, the camera, pointed at the base. So it was always looking to the center instead of looking forward, which is just kind of a more impressive looking rise. So we had one of our other ambassadors already go forward and create something in a way that worked, but it was kind of a ton of work. Another ambassador took that to the next level, improved it, created a version of it in the Mavic, created a version of it for the Inspire, and he's released it. Now he's updating it and improving it. And now that's going to be taken and put out in the repository. So to me, that summarizes almost everything that I love about the software. It shows how he took a basic component that was built by Dronelink, it was built on by somebody else, shared, improved on by someone else, and shared, and now it'll be continued to be improved on. So we had a question from somebody about how that rising helix was done. That was done by one of our ambassadors. We didn't even do that. That wasn't our work at all.
Yeah, and if it's in a public repo, you don't have to ask the question, you just go look. You see exactly how it was done. I'm not recording.
You said it turned off. I mean, another example of that was, the 360 photo component that we created. So 360 photo at a high level is easy to understand, but to program it up, there's actually a fair bit of complexity. You saw me just add that 360 photo component in from our repo. If you navigate into it, you'll see it's flying to a destination, it's performing camera settings while it's flying there, and then it's doing multiple rows of image capture, where it's moving the heading of the drone, it's moving the gimbal, it's calling start capture, and so all of that complexity that I think it took us originally like 2 or 3 hours to program that component, is available to you. Like if you just click new component, do include from repository, then start searching for 360, you can just drop that in, it asks you where you want to put it, and now you've got 2 360 photos right there. And so one of our other users, Jackson, who I was showing earlier, he took that 360 photo component, which was for a normal Mavic, and he wanted to do a gigapano with a Mavic Zoom, so he created a gigapano version of it. So he forked the component, added a bunch more rows, a bunch more headings. He had a whole spreadsheet that was filled out. It took him like 6 hours. And then he published it back to his public repository for anybody to use if they have a Mavic 2 Zoom. Punched all the way in. So you can take advantage of his 6 hours of work that he did if you have that focal length. Now obviously DJI is going to come out with new drones, new lenses, and so the idea here is that we're all helping each other, collaborating together as this stuff happens, right? Getting ideas from each other, riffing on each other's mission plans and components, and hopefully pushing each other beyond where our thinking currently was. So is that?
Yeah, I think it was good. A couple of things that I was saying. I mean, we talked about there's really just been a lot of. We just talked about the thing with Jackson. There's been other examples of that too, where we've had ideas that are pushing Jim. So I will say, he creates things based on his experience faster than anybody I've ever met. So the mapping capability was created in 2 days. So that what's that?
I said there's the captures.
Oh, there's the
There may have been
oh.
something with the video
Oh, okay.
that so he's talking about like creating features quickly. So one of the last features that I wanted to pump out before the beta was over was map component type. So I put the map component type in here, which is fine. Here it is. You know, you can mess around with it. It's similar to other systems. If you do a mission preview on it, what people wanted to know was how many images is this thing going to capture, right? And so then, of course, the next step so here it is, right? Like, here's all the images. If you hover over the last one, you can see it's like 286 pictures that are going to end up on the camera. But then, of course, it was like, well, now we want to see where they are actually on the map. Like, where is it going to capture these things? You know, it's intervalometer. I mean, you can even tell there's some idiosyncrasies, right? Because, like, you can tell it's flying the path this way because as soon as it crosses the boundary, it takes a picture there. But on its way back, it's the 2-second interval is such that it doesn't exactly line up with the edge of that, but it's good enough for the settings that they wanted to choose. So this is, you know, ended up creating this component type, and I think it took like a couple of days, basically. But, you know, sometimes we move fast and break a few things, but it's fine, right? I'm going to go home tonight and get the videos back in the timeline here under camera captures. But yeah, you can see here that it's just, you know, this level of detail, it's never been available. It's always been kind of behind the scenes. And this view, when I started creating Dronelink back in December last year, I didn't even have this view in mind to release. I'd actually created this as my own internal debug environment so I could figure out what was going wrong with bug, not that I had bugs, but if I did have a bug, what was going wrong with the flight controller. And so what it allowed me to do, whereas before with like an autopilot in the hangar world, I would have to write a piece of code. You saw me sitting there at the kitchen table, go out, test it, fly it in real time. The whole cycle would take like minutes or hours. This compressed the cycle down to, I could make a tweak in the flight controller, run the mission preview, which isn't limited by normal space-time rules. It can run in a browser, you know, a billion times per second on the speed of our processors. And so I could run this whole 18-minute mission, and you saw how fast the preview got generated. It was about 4 seconds. So I could do this, you know, 50 times an hour. And before that would have taken me a month, you know, and I did all of that coding and testing in 1 hour. And so, you know, that's part of the reason why, even though this really only started baking back in January, February timeframe, it looks as if it's been baking for as long as maybe autopilot or hangar would have been baking for 4 years. Because, I mean, technically from a time standpoint, the time has actually, it's been 4 years worth of time in computer time. So anyways, sorry, I'm not geeking out a little bit too much for you guys, but and so then once I had that, I was like, well, why not just make it available for my users, right? Because it's like, as much as I'm testing my own flight controller, you guys could compress your own flight planning and all the rest of your experience the same way that I compressed my development time. And so that was like in the case of the, you know, Oregon flight plan in the coast, would have taken, you know, countless iterations of going back and forth to Google Earth and KML export and like dropping the thing in. I mean, it would have taken like a week to plan that. I don't
Make one other plea. So for people that have comments or suggestions or feedback, a few places to go. First of all, there is a Dronelink user group that has been pretty active right now about people that are suggesting things. One of the things that Jim kind of hinted on was that you can take missions and post them to Facebook and social media, on Twitter, which allows you to share a mission out on a board and let people provide feedback directly, which is there's nothing else like that out there. There's also a forum on the Dronelink page. I recommend you go there if you've got questions or feedback. It's good for us as well because it allows us to search and keep track of things a little bit more than Facebook. We also have a kind of a feature request list.
Yeah, so if you go to the forum,
Yeah.
click on the feature request, there's a pinned post up there for the product roadmap. If you click into that, it's actually a link to our public Trello board where you can upvote all the features that are currently proposed for the future of Dronelink. So this is like how you can directly influence what comes next. So you can see map type. I just dragged that over. It was over here in the web app, and I dragged it over like yesterday.
That was good.
Cool.
Yep.
So do we want to maybe do some questions?
Feed him here too.
So I think the light, we're gonna lose the light if we hesitate. We should go outside and fly the mission. Are you gonna create the mission?
Yeah, why don't we make this real? So let's not do these 360 photos. Let's just do one of them. Let's take the map out. And then let's go ahead and just put a point of interest out here. So it's focusing on downtown.
There's no restriction as of flying right now.
I
didn't see it here far.
There isn't, right?
Yeah, I don't
I
think so.
checked and
Other than staying off of that side, I couldn't have other.
Cool. Okay. So there's the mission. Let's make sure it's actually on short capture. Get the cinematic camera settings.
So while he's doing that, one of the things that he also did with this program is that if your battery runs out, I know you, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, likewise. Wow. Anyway, if you run out of battery while you're doing the mission, you can bring the drone back, stick a new battery in. It pre-rolls, it backs up, and then it starts the video and everything so that when you look at the video, it matches up exactly where it left off when you brought the drone down, which is pretty phenomenal.
If you're doing a mapping mission, you can...
Yep.
John.
Yep, exactly. That actually showed. So if you click on map right here, I'll delete this out. The mission previewer. It'll actually show you how many batteries it takes. So there's battery number 1, there's battery number 2, and you can configure how long you think your battery duration is. I think the default is 15 minutes or something. It's pretty conservative. Yeah, so basically what happens, like Carlos was saying, so here's the mission we're going to do. I'll hit preview here.
Question: are there any flight restrictions with Elizabeth Warren being across the street?
I think we said no. Yeah. So here's the mission that we're about to go do. So I set a point of interest on downtown. It's going to focus there. We're going to film it cinematically, and then once that's done, it'll book it back here and start doing a 360 photo, kind of where we're standing. So what I'll do to simulate that is I'll just make it do an RTH right in the middle of this path. We'll come back, land, simulate a battery swap, and then what will happen is this, the drone is strafing at 10 miles an hour to the left. And so as soon as I hit the RTH button, it captures all of the telemetry data, figures out the kinematic state of the drone, figures out all the camera settings that have been applied to it, remembers all of that. So that way when you hit resume, it brings the drone back to where it was, backs it up a little bit depending on how fast it was going, starts the camera rolling so that you can edit the two clips on top of each other, and then rolls into it and then resumes the mission from there. So if I didn't break that, we're about to see that right now. But before we go out there, should we do more questions for the live stream people?
Well, I would do that, but the other thing is that we need to put everything back the way it was before we can go.
Oh, okay.
And if we all help, we can make it happen really fast. Pick up our stuff. I do want to do a group shot to honor this occasion, and we'll do it over here. And finish with
Do we have any other pressing questions from there? Okay, cool.
Can you change exposures and stuff while you're flying the mission?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do it from the flight dashboard. There's, all the normal camera controls are in there if you want to. I would recommend doing that as a component. You can set all the exposure manual settings, everything you want. So if you know, like, hey, I'm going to be shooting at magic hour or whatever, you just have your magic hour camera settings component. Obviously, sometimes it takes a human eye. And so in those cases, you might just want to say, put the camera into manual mode, and then you're expecting as the operator to be tweaking the exposure while you're flying.
I've seen some posts from people that are flying. They fly to a point, they pause the mission, they fix the camera settings the way they want it, and they resume the mission.
Yeah.
So we've seen people do that.
Yeah, for sure.
On a very complex mission, you may not know what tank.
Diff for sure is on the list. So we are going to Black's Barbecue after the flight, so there is going to be more time if you want to come to ask questions and stuff. I think the live stream was good. So if we want to tear this place down, then we can go from there. Cool. Thank you.